All right, everybody, I think we're going to get started. Our final speaker for the evening, our keynote speaker, is one Dennis Pratt. You may have heard of him. Yeah. Dennis was 2022 New Hampshire Liberty Activist of the Year. Yep. A round of applause for him. He is an ethicist. He's a writer. He's hilarious. If you see in a Signal chat that Dennis is typing, you can expect about 3 days and you'll get an essay or a whole book. He was Quora's #1 writer on libertarianism before he moved to New Hampshire and got canceled by Quora. I don't know if he's going to talk about that, but that's a whole thing. He's a volunteer who started the Shell Clubhouse. He opened the Independence Inn. He has organized the Liberty bus tours that go around the state a couple of times a year at least. He's organized all kinds of events, tweeted about the Free State on Twitter at Dennis Pratt Free. You should follow him. He has redesigned PorkFest the past few years to double the attendance and the number of events happening. He studied psychology as an undergrad, psychology undergrad and computer science grad at Northwestern and business grad at MIT with a research focus on the design of new products in emerging industries. Besides homeschooling his daughter, he started with an organization for parents to take control of their child's schooling and an organization for personal growth that ran over 250 events per year for 4,500 members in the greater Boston area. He's been a libertarian for over 40 years before he even knew what the word meant, coming from the left, and he's been married to his wife and college dorm mate Carol for even longer than that. They have one child, Vivian, and 2 dogs with his dog named Ron Paw. Dennis is my friend and one of my favorite people. Give him a warm welcome, please.
One, two, three. Can you hear me? Good? All right. All right. So welcome, Liberty Forum. You guys having fun yet? You know, it's so much fun going out there and just being amongst Liberty people. I remember the first time I came up here, I was so shocked. 2011, I was shocked, and then 2012 was my first Liberty Forum. I do want to thank the people who are putting this conference on. I came here 2 nights ago, just to see what the situation was, and there were 40 Porcupine volunteers working. Viviana, Mickey, and Veronica, Amber, Sarah. I mean, there's just so many people. Bo and Hunter, Miranda here. Where's Katie? There's just so many people who are helping. And this is our great strength here in the Free State. The people who really hate us, I call them the free haters. So the free haters think that we're funded by this out-of-state billionaires giving us all this money. Well, last year, our largest contribution was $2,500. And most of our contributions are like $10 a month or $40 a month or $100 a month. It's grassroots. But it's not just the cash. The other grassroots is the volunteers. And we get so much value from our volunteers. They're putting in sweat equity to build this libertarian homeland. Put up your hands if you did something over the last year to help build the Free State. Okay, now keep your hands up, keep your hands. It might have been in politics or bill reviewing, campaigning, community, parties, debates, clubhouses, events, agorism, farming, homesteading, homeschooling, guns, new businesses, technology, advertising, websites. I mean, the list is endless. All the things that we're doing here. Thank you so much for doing this. It's such a privilege to be amongst all these great Liberty people, and that's really what I experience when I go out here. I remember being so shocked when I first got here. And now, even 4.5 years later, I'm still enjoying it. I just go, oh yeah, this is nice. This is nice. We get the best of the best Liberty people, not just from the divided states, but also from all over the world. And I feel privileged to be just one of these thousands of volunteers. But what I'm going to say today, there's going to be a number of porcupines who are going to disagree with me. And that's part and parcel with what we're doing and how we're doing it. We are decentralized. We are not top-down and controlled. And so that's just how we build this free state. The free haters are always trying to look at, who's in control, and it's not. It's just all of us working together. And what we're going to build is some unknowable function of the people who actually show up here, roll up their sleeves, and start building. But the upshot is that sometimes we disagree. And so anything I say that you think is especially stupid, that's on me. Okay? Don't blame anyone else. Don't say this free state thinks this or anything. It's just me thinking this, okay? So let's find out. Who here is from, actually lives in New Hampshire right now? So raise your hand. Keep your hands up. Okay, great. Okay. All right. Now, who here does not yet live in New Hampshire? Raise your hand. Keep your hands up. Now, keep your hands up if you're planning, or if you're thinking that maybe someday you might come and help us build a free state. Yeah. All right. Now, you are the people on whom we're counting. You can put your hands down. Thank you so, thank you so much. She's my new assistant. We've already done so much stuff here, and you're going to be so impressed with all the things that we've done, but we're nowhere near finished. We're just not. And we are counting on you to come in as reinforcements to help us. We need you. So my talk today is really for those of you who have a palpable love of human freedom, and yet you're not yet here in the free state. If you yearn for human freedom, then to live a well-lived life, you must live in this historic state, at this historic time, to participate in this once-in-a-millennium movement. It comes down to integrity. Now, I don't mean the type of integrity where you're telling the truth. There's part of it there. But I'm talking about the Latin root meaning wholeness, meaning unitary, meaning one, right? Integrity. So who you really are deep inside is reflected in everything that you say and everything that you do. Because to live a well-lived life, you must live openly with your most cherished beliefs. To be happy with your life, you cannot hide, embarrassed, fearful, cowering, denying who you truly are. I teach Libertarianism 101, but I teach it mostly from the ethical perspective, not the utilitarian perspective. Most of you are very familiar with utilitarian arguments for libertarianism. Yeah, and how many really understand the ethical side? Good. All right. Well, of course. Yeah. Our ethics starts with your full and exclusive ownership or control of your own body. Okay? And we call that concept self-ownership. And to deny self-ownership is to say that there is someone who has a superior ownership over your body. And there's a shorthand term for that. We call it being a slave, right? If someone else owns you. But we reject slavery as an abomination. And, if you're a slaver, you really can't be a good person. Even if you hide your enslavement of others behind the proxy of a ruler. And so what we do, we ethicists and libertarians, is we follow this one premise of self-ownership consistently and unflinchingly to wherever it takes us. Because by doing so, we know that we will never be enslaving someone else. This becomes the minimum requirement to not do evil. Okay? So not enslave somebody. That becomes the minimum requirement. Now, our detractors will, of course, say, hey, what, these libertarians, they keep on talking about minimum requirements. We want to do better than that. And I concur. That is my practice, to do better than the minimum. But if we are below that minimum, no matter how many treats you might give to your slaves, you still are not being a good person. And only when we are above that minimum can we start giving lots of bells and whistles and doing all these fantastic things, and also still be basically a good person. Here's the bald-faced facts, folks. Most of human society, through most of human history, has never really achieved that basic low minimum level. Humans have treated, and still do treat, each other extremely inhumanely. And that is why libertarianism is needed now. To focus humanity not just on the bells and whistles that everyone really wants, but on the minimum basic respect that we must have for each other's self-ownership. Now, what's this ethical standard? My guess is you've already used some aphorisms for it. So raise your hand if one of these hits true for you. Live and let live. How many use that? Okay, good. How about non-aggression principle? Okay, you use that. Good. What about don't hurt people and don't take their stuff? Oh, that's popular. Okay, good. Different strokes for different folks. Come on, you lefties, I'm sure. Yeah. That was mine even before I was libertarian. Voluntary acts between consenting adults. All right. Laissez-faire. How many use the French pronunciation? I mean, then you're really cool. Non-interventionism. Okay. Don't initiate violence. Okay. And other people are not your property. So there's really, there's so many different ways that we use to try to explain this simple ethic. And if we could ever explain it to these non-libertarians, we would be giving them such a great gift. We would end wholesale evil. We would end man's greatest inhumanities to man. We would solve so many of the world's unnecessary problems. Wars, hardships, misery, pain, poverty, starvation. We could finally live together in peace. Each precious, unique individual could express the beauty that she has inside of her without fear of being violated. It is the engine of innovation and entrepreneurship, of wealth and charity, of kindness and tolerance, of acceptance and of love. But here's the problem. 99% of the population of the world either do not reflect about evil, they reject that there is even evil, they think of evil as some sort of cartoon caricature, they have a broken belief about evil, like, oh, it's evil if I don't get what I want. They rely on lists from someone or in some book of what acts are evil and which aren't. They define evil as going against their tribe. Or worst, but the most common, and sadly the most ironic, they define evil as disobeying the very monsters whose profession is to violate human self-ownership in order to enslave us. And thus, the vast population will do things that we, from our libertarian perspective, see as great evils even realizing that they might be doing something evil. The giant divide between the very few of us who see ethics in this way and the vast majority who don't it constitutes our central life dilemma. How do we, with our libertarian ethic, live in a society in which the vast, vast majority of people not only act in evil ways, but glorify their evil acts as great goods? Now, it hurts our hearts, our bodies, our minds, and most especially our souls, to live as though we accept it in a society that regularly and righteously does great evil to each other. Now, let me use an analogy. It's going to be a controversial one, and that's why I like it. But imagine that I was born and raised in a tribe. Now, it's not that unusual tribe. This is, especially in this imaginary world, because all the tribes are cannibalistic. And somehow, some way, even the witch doctor can't really figure out what went wrong with me. But I came to this conclusion that killing and eating other humans was wrong. Yes, even if they were from a different tribe. Yes, even if everyone said it was okay to kill and eat them. Even if my parents and my parents' parents and my parents' parents' parents thought it was fine to kill and eat people. And even though I was taught that in cannibal school. Or the stories I would hear at night, every single night, would be stories of the great kills and the luscious meals and, of course, the women trading recipes. So what have I described? Here I am, a libertarian stuck in a cannibal tribe. Now, just stop for a moment. What would you do if you were a libertarian? I'm not saying that you are a libertarian stuck in a cannibal tribe. I'm suggesting, no, I would never do that. But what would you do?
Butter and garlic.
The chef has spoken.
Not a cannibal.
Voluntarily cooperate with the other tribes and say, I promise not to eat your people if you don't eat ours.
All right, so you're going to go and negotiate with the other tribes. That's interesting. All right, good. All right, well, the first thing I would do is I would try to figure out how to cut out and run, as quickly as I possibly could. But here's the problem, folks. All the other tribes are cannibals, right? So the best case scenario is I'd have to join one of the other tribes, but now I'd be hunting to eat my old friends and family. So that's not particularly good. The worst thing, and probably the more likely, is I'd just be captured and served up as a meal. So my second choice, what's my second choice? So I had cutting out, closeting. I deny to myself what I know to be true. I go along to get along, right? Just smile. And, maybe I'm not doing it all that enthusiastically. But frankly, there's always a risk of discovery. So I don't want to be considered weird. Who wants to not be part of the tribe? And banishment would mean death, and my family could actually get hurt. So at some point, I find myself killing more and killing harder, to prove not just to the tribe, but to myself that I do belong. All right, so we have cutting out, closeting. The next option here, oh, shoot. Oh, too bad. All right, we're just going to skip that whole thing. I pushed a little bit too hard on my finger. So is called camouflage. And now here, I'm no longer lying to myself. Okay? I continue lying to them, but I have a plan. And my plan here is that I'm going to work from the inside and be the agent of change. Maybe I'll capture I'll become one of the leaders. And from there, I'll single-handedly move the tribe from cannibalism to a respect of every human's body. A respectful cannibal, yeah. So I have to pretend to go along with the murders and the feasting. Certainly until I capture that mantle of power, I have to play this part. But maybe I take some corners. Maybe I kill only males of a certain age. That's a good compromise. Or I torture my meals a little bit less before I kill them. Or I serve a healthy, tasty portion of rat as an hors d'oeuvre, as an alternative with butter and garlic to the tribe. And all the while I'm telling myself that I am slowly moving my tribe away from the evil of cannibalism. Now, how many of you have tried in the past a strategy of camouflage, where you're pretending, okay? The trouble with this strategy is that after years of playing this game, I realized that my tribe is killing and consuming even more humans than when I started. And either I'm nowhere closer to the center of power, or I'm close enough to realize that as soon as they realize I'm not really a cannibal, I'm going to be out of power. And I'm starting to hear some suspicion about me. People are calling me anti-food. There are whispers of traitor. And in some cases, I've had to prove myself to the tribe by committing even more grievous sins. But I keep pretending to myself that my modest steps are really working, and that I'll be able to use that power, but I do so primarily to appease my guilty conscience. So, cutting and running, closeting, camouflage. I've got 3 C's. Do I have a 4th? Yes, I do. Conversion. It's the one that probably most of you have been working on for a lot of your time. Now, as opposed to all the other options, I'm not lying to myself, okay? But I'm also not lying to the tribe. So we're increasing a little bit more integrity here. I'm trying to convince them of my perspective. And so I introduce them to better foods and tell them how much more healthy and that type of thing. Or I tell them, we're going to lose a lot fewer warriors doing it this way. Or just imagine if we could have trade with these tribes as opposed to eating them. Maybe I even call them out. It's wrong to kill other people. There's better ways to treat the other tribes. Perhaps I even introduce them to the universality of self-ownership. I mean, I figured it out without their help. Surely they can figure it out with my help. How many of you have tried the conversion strategy? All right. The core problem with this strategy, and this is something that's really, really hard for people like us to accept, is that they have no desire to change. Everyone they know is a cannibal, except for me. And I'm weird, anti-food, tribal trader. So who wants to align themselves with me? I'm asking them to go against their tribe, their culture, their religion, their indoctrination, their training, their history, their stories, their games, their friends, and most importantly, the very people who raised them. How long can I maintain my friendships with them if I continue to push? When will these friends turn upon me as the troublemaker that I truly am, right? And perhaps regrettably, but for the good of the tribe, serve me as a meal. And before they do, how many times do I have to swallow my disapprobation while some poor victim screams because I fear that the cannibal tribe will think less of me? All right, so we have 4 C's that aren't really working out. Luckily, there's a 5th, concentration. One day, I'm reluctantly following along with the hunt, and one of the tribe mates says, hey, I heard about this new tribe up north, and it breaks with all of our traditions. It doesn't murder. It doesn't eat people. And the whole hunting party breaks up in uproarious laughter. I mean, can you imagine treating another tribe as anything other than food? And one of the tribe mates, he actually darkly starts joking. He says, well, I bet you Dennis would be the right person for that tribe. And all the tribe mates, they stop their laughter and they start looking suspiciously at me. Brandon, I'm looking at you. And of course, just for my safety, I vigorously deny this. And I condemn that tribe and talk about how I would skewer that tribe. But later, carefully, I start probing. Where might this weird tribe be? I look at maps. I extend my hunting trips further and further north. And I allow my captives to escape if they'll give me a little bit of information about this mysterious tribe. But of course, I couldn't actually join them, you know? I mean, I'd have to leave my family. Well, you know, I could always visit my family later. But you know, I'd lose my job. I just got it. Human entrail puller. It's unlikely that they'll have that job there, but they're going to have other jobs, and I can do those. I can learn how to do those. But I'm so comfortable. I know, you know, I know the streets in my village, and there's a bar that I go to on Saturday night. I really enjoy that. Well, maybe they have bars there. I don't know. But my friends, how can I go without my friends? Oh my goodness. Oh, you know, maybe I could make friends that aren't going to kill me. So one night after a particularly gruesome hunt, and after roiling these thoughts inside, I come to a realization. Despite 6,000 years of cannibalism, despite my friends and family honoring the sacred tradition of headhunting, I just can't abide by the evil anymore. I won't do it anymore, and I won't pretend to accept it anymore. I resolve to make the treacherous trek to the tribe up north. Now I'll skip over the trek, and I'll just say that it wasn't as hard as I imagined it to be. All right, everyone thinks it's going to be so hard. Oh my God, but it wasn't. But you can probably imagine how nervous I am when I finally stumbled into this village. I mean, it's totally alien. You know, there's no heads adorning the walls. What's up with that? And there's no limbs hanging out of large cooking pots. And there's no mother crying because her child will be tonight's dessert. But they welcome me. And they welcome me for a good reason. They need some help because they're surrounded by cannibals. For the first time in my life, I find myself amongst people who agree with a basic demarcation that I have for evil. After a few days, I'm sitting down to eat with what are turning out to be possibly really good friends. None of them have filed teeth. We're eating gazelle instead of human. And I start to relax in a way I've never relaxed before. One of the darkest clouds over my soul is lifting. I feel elated, light. My heart beats stronger. My laughter is genuine and unguarded. And so much of the uneasiness I had felt is dissipating. And on one of the 22,000 breaths I take every day, I all of a sudden realize there used to be a burden in my chest. And I never knew it was there before, but I know it's now because it's gone. How did I not know it was there? And I keep taking breaths. How did I not know I couldn't breathe before? So that night around the campfire, I stand up and I talk a little bit about my travel, about my horror living amongst the cannibals, my relief and gratitude living with this new tribe. And when I sit down, I'm not shamed or insulted or ridiculed. I'm not called stupid or traitor or evil. In fact, some call me rational, intelligent, and a good man. And so for the first time, I believe my tribe mates. The feeling I have right there would be me living well, in integrity, amongst my people who share my deepest value. Now, to bring that back to the Free State Project, we have lots of jobs for you guys, no human entrail pullers. We have probably, you can't imagine how rich a social life you have here. But there's parties and meetups and events just going on all the time. And you'll have a whole network of associates whom I can tell you, you will find many friends here. And you can call them up to advance freedom, to enjoy one another, to start your ideal company, to handle that household emergency, or just to chat. Now, of course, you'll want to visit your old tribe, but you have gotten used to our non-cannibalistic society. Uh-oh. Hello. And so when they casually mention, as they so thoughtlessly do, consuming other humans for their projects or profits or preferences, you'll be even more shocked than you are today. Their society will feel alien, as it should. You'll wonder, how did I put up with this for so long? And when you cross back over the border, back into the Free State, you'll enthusiastically be beeping your horn to be back amongst the live free and die. We few who have preceded you have made great strides. You'll hear a lot of that Sunday, tomorrow at 4 o'clock from Jeremy. But we have so much more work to do to build this libertarian homeland. The communities we've already built are extensive, more extensive than you can imagine, but we need to extend them even further, and we need to build more. Our parallel institutions are strong, but we need to make them stronger and build more. And we have advanced in so many areas of freedom. We need to advance more and open up new fronts. If you truly love liberty, if you want to be the slave to no man, if you want to enslave no man, if you want to be an equal brother or sister to all, if you want your relationships consensual, your work voluntary, your trades win-win, your life in integrity, if you're willing to respect the body of every other human as long as they respect yours, if you want to live a life well lived, leave the cannibals behind and come and help us build our libertarian homeland. Yeah, I'll do here. So if anyone has any questions about cannibalism, I think we got the Carla's here. She can answer, different types of cooking, ethics. Yes, please.
What does that sign there mean?
Oh. Okay, the question was, what does this sign mean? Should I really tell it? Okay, all right. Well, this is my life symbol. I used to do a lot of personal growth. And the peace sign is always what I'm seeking. It's the underlying thing that I'm seeking. It's internal peace, being at peace with myself, but also peace with my neighbors. Okay? The second layer is the heart. It means love. It means a mature love, a love of an acceptance of each person as how they show up. And the top sign is the voluntarist sign. It's the gold of capitalism and the black of anarchy in a stylized handshake. Okay? And the reason why voluntarism is up at the very top is that you need voluntarism for peace. Because without voluntarism, peace is a prison camp. And you need voluntarism for love. Because without voluntarism, love is rape. And so voluntarism is absolutely required for the things I desire most in my life. And the V for voluntarism is the melding of all the colors between. I spent time on this. Jim.
What's the difference between voluntarism and voluntarism?
Voluntarism says that all human relationships should be voluntary. Voluntarism is that you like to volunteer. So we had voluntarists volunteering on Friday night. Yeah. Oh.
You went through all the C's. Did you leave out contaminated meat because of the NAP?
Contaminated meat. You mean poisoning them? The question was, will I turn the story into a children's book? Well, that would be an interesting. We'll have to talk to the Tuttle twins about that. They haven't, a graphic novel. They haven't got into enough trouble, so we could see if we could really get people upset.
So you were focusing on your writing on libertarian from an ethical perspective versus, say, from a utilitarian or practical perspective. Like, why did you make that decision? What do you see as is there a difference? I mean, at the end, we're kind of going to the same place, but is there a difference? Do you find, was it just a better way to persuade people, or is that where you came from? I'm just curious why you made the split there.
Yeah, so I would say that probably about 25 years of my libertarianism was primarily a utilitarian, trying to make that argument. And you have to study a lot, right? Because every single issue you have to become like an expert in. Luckily, I'm a really big nerd. And that's actually one of the reasons why we have, okay, who here's a nerd? Raise your hand. This is why we have so many nerds, because we're the only people who can get through all that material. And what actually convinced me was seatbelts. No, not seatbelts. Oh, jeez. I'm sorry, I was thinking something totally. Was minimum wage. Okay? Minimum wage. I came from the left. And we are dedicated to trying to bring up the most impoverished people. Right? We're trying to do this. And minimum wage, the utilitarian argument for minimum wage, against minimum wage, it's just so overwhelming. And yet I couldn't convince people with it. They'd find something, or they'd say, "Oh, well, this study's wrong," and they talk and talk. The the theory is sound, the empiricism is there, and if you can't convince people of how minimum wage destroys the very people that they're most concerned with, I don't know, how we work through these other harder problems with them. So now I had actually come to libertarianism from almost an ethical perspective, but basically the perspective that I had. I'd come from the left. I was working with this really intense conservative, and we would. It was a startup situation, so long hours, a lot of effort, and we would distract ourselves by arguing and calling each other names. But what was really strange was that he was libertarian on economics, but authoritarian on foreign intervention and personal ownership. I was libertarian, so this is the old left, on body issues and anti-interventionism, but I was totally socialist on economics. And what we did was we just caught each other on inconsistencies. Well, you said this and you said that, and it really bothered us. It was just lucky that the two of us, neither of us could sleep with logical inconsistencies. This is not true of the general population. It seems odd. Most of the general population is totally fine with A and not A. There's a small sliver, we call them libertarians, who can't stand that. He can't stand that. And so over 9 months, this happened over 9 months, we actually derived something that we had never heard of. We had never thought of. We thought it was brand new. And 6 months later, on a Chicago bus during winter, there was a snow, all the snow gets in there and sloshes back and forth. And I was bored watching the snow going back and forth. There's a leaflet. And I was like looking at reading the leaflet. I was like, oh my goodness! And I pick it up. It's dripping wet. I jump out in the loop in the Chicago area. I find a payphone. You guys remember what payphones are? And I call up my friend. I go, I know what we are. There's a word for what we are. We're libertarians. And I was so excited that there was actually this thing that I had never heard of, And so I went to the libertarian, a capital L libertarian. I've been talking about small L libertarian, right? You guys know the difference, right? The small L libertarian is the philosophy, the theory. The large L is the political. And they all were coming from the conservative. And they were all just so, it was just oil and water. But I'm a 40-year card-carrying member of the Libertarian Party, even though it depresses me. Remember, the Libertarian Party is doing conversions, the Libertarian Party is actually very interesting because they do kind of they do sometimes conversion, right? The principled people will get in there and they'll do conversion. And other times what they'll do is they'll do camouflage. And those are the pragmatists. Right? The pragmatists are saying, oh, well, we're really not that scary. We're just kind of like you, except we want better management and less waste. And, the Bill Weld type of libertarian. And then the principals come in and they'll go, oh, we believe this and you ought to believe it too. I think concentration, which is what we're doing here, is really the way to go. I don't know how you guys get to libertarianism, where all of our paths are quite different. And it's so hard. The characteristics, I believe that in order to become a libertarian, the function is more something inside you than it is inside the argument. Okay? So logical consistency is super important, right? If you're logically consistent, libertarianism is something that is actually going to appeal to you. But you also have to be able to withstand social pressures. So you have to be somebody who actually seeks the truth despite everyone else telling you that you're absolutely insane. And you go, but that doesn't make sense, and you still take that step. Most people will crumble. And there's other characteristics that are personal. So how people actually make this trip, I think is very hard to predict who's going to make it. I actually thought about coming up with a little questionnaire to try to find the characteristics. So most of the people you're talking to, you are wasting your time. They do not have the capability of ever becoming libertarian. So stop it. We are too few. Life is too short. And just invite the people who do become, however they become, here. And we'll prototype a libertarian society. And then the people who are kind of curious, they'll come in here and go, what was the Boston Reporter said? Oh, they don't want garbage picked up. What are you talking about, lady? We want garbage. We just don't want it to be a monopoly for your politicians' cronies, okay? That's a difference. But to them, that means you don't want garbage picked up. Anyway, I want to thank you guys. I'm around. If you want to talk ethics, if you want to talk anything else.
Another round of applause for Dennis, please. He's the man. He's fun. He's smart. He's interesting. So that was our last talk of the day. We have a couple more things going on. The next thing in this room will be airing a trailer of the Ithaca documentary preview. This is a documentary produced by Julian Assange's family. His brother Gabriel produced it. It's about his dad fighting to get Julian freed. So it's probably quite touching and emotional and probably a bit gut-wrenching. But we're going to show a trailer here because at the Shell out in Rollinsford later this month, they will be having Gabriel Shipton out, and he will actually be showing the whole documentary there. So if you guys are around the state, do you know what day that is, Dennis, at the Shell? Thursday, March 23rd. March 23rd at the Shell.